she walks in, I know exactly what she's looking for. You can tell by the eyes, looking everywhere but refusing to focus on anything specific in case someone notices them. I always notice them. They cannot hide from me. Not here. Not in my space. Not in my library. Young, pretty, with black curly hair and skin that tells me she doesn't stress about sunscreen, even though we should all stress about sunscreen. I watch her adjust her backpack and pick a direction. She has no idea which way to go, obviously, so any direction is good enough for her, for now.
Do you have the latest John Grisham novel?
An older woman in her 70s asks me, or she could be in her late 60s, maybe even early 80s. I am no good with ages. Like the pretty young woman, 16, 18, 25.
Do you know the title?
I ask the older woman who could be in her 60s or 80s. Definitely not 90s.
If I knew the title, I wouldn't have come up here to ask you.
The woman huffs. I smell peppermint and cigarettes on her breath. Another way to kill your skin. The cigarettes, not the peppermint.
My apologies,
I say as I turn to my computer terminal to look up Grisham's latest crowd pleaser. As I peruse the listings, which I needn't do since I know exactly what book the woman wants, I keep the young woman in view out of the corner of my eye. I am a librarian. We have eyes in the back of our heads. We see all in our space.
Hello?
The older woman snaps and taps her manicured fingernails on the counter.
I'm in a hurry. Of course,
I say, and keep perusing simply because the longer I take, the more annoyed the woman becomes. It also gives me a nice little bit of subterfuge to hide behind as I track the young woman's progress through the stacks. The older woman continues to tap, tap, tap on the counter, her eyes locked onto me, her brow low and menacing. Well, as menacing as an older woman in her 60s or 80s can be when she's barely taller than the counter she's tapping on.
Ah, here we go,
I say as I lose sight of the young woman in the history section.
Are you wanting his latest fiction release or his latest nonfiction release? Nonfiction?
The woman asks, incredulous.
Do I look like I listen to NPR? I am unsure how the two are related. I'm looking for his fiction, of course.
The older woman snaps, then leans in and reads my name tag.
Morgan.
She pauses, looks up at my face, looks down at the name tag, looks up at my face, and snorts derisively.
That's a woman's name, not a man's.
And yet it's my name, and I am a man, I say, and grab a piece of scrap paper.
The book's name is Camino Ghosts. Here is the call number. It is still being shelved in the new fiction section, so don't go wandering in the regular fiction stacks and get lost. Why would I get lost? It was a joke. You're not funny. Yes, I have been told that.
The older woman snatches the scrap of paper away from me and stomps off. Well, more like scuffles off. Her 60 or 80-year-old knees do not look up to the task of stomping. Maybe she is 90. Hard to tell. She isn't as old as this library, though. No. This library is much older than 60 or 80 or 90. As far as everyone knows, the library has always been here, built as one of the first buildings in this town, back when it was a village consisting of a mere handful of settlers. People looking for a new and better life on this shore, away from the jeering and hate they were accustomed to in their old country. I straighten some papers at the counter, then turn to the hold cart and pretend to sort through the books waiting to be picked up. My eyes dart over to the side, and I see the young woman standing in the medieval Europe shelves of the history section. She is reading each spine with intense concentration. Time to make myself known.
Hello,
I say, hiding my smile as the young woman jumps a little and lets out a muffled squeak of fear.
My apologies. I didn't mean to startle you.
I most certainly did mean to startle her. It's the little things in life that keep us going.
Hello,
the young woman says, and gives me a weak smile before returning her attention to the shelves and the many, many books resting there.
Are you looking for something specific, or just browsing our tomes on medieval Europe? It is a fascinating time in history. so I can understand if you are overwhelmed by the choices before you. I am more than happy to help narrow it down or recommend something specific. Unless, of course, you already know the title. Do you?
Do I? What?
Have something specific in mind, I say,
and then turn and point toward the end of the row where a bank of computers sits.
If you are unfamiliar with our system, I can instruct you on our computerized card catalog. No actual cards anymore, I'm afraid, but plenty of catalog.
She does not laugh at my little joke. Rare is the person who does.
I don't know the title, but I was told I could find a certain book here that helps with, well...
I wait, yet she does not elaborate.
Are you 18? 20?
She says warily.
Ah, community college then,
I say, nodding.
Yeah. I ask because we do have a robust erotica section, if that is what you are asking for.
I say in a conspiratorial whisper.
I can tell you the more popular titles if you need, but it sounds like you already know what you want. Care to describe the book? More than likely, I'll be able to tell you the title.
The poor deer's eyes are as wide as a startled deer's. A deer of a deer, if you will. I laugh a little under my breath at my silly wordplay joke. I should have said it out loud. I am sure the young woman would find it amusing. Except that her body language tells me she wants to flee. As to whether her discomfort is because of what I have said, or because she believes I am laughing at her, I do not know.
My apologies,
I say.
I have misunderstood the situation.
What situation? She asks, still unsettled.
The situation of the book you are looking for, but do not know the title of. If I may be bold, you seem confused and possibly bordering on upset. I now know you are not looking for the erotica section, so let us strike that from our conversation and start over. What is this book you have been recommended, yet do not know the title of?
She swallows hard, and I swear she is about to bolt, just like the figurative deer I have described her as. Then she clears her throat, and with a great amount of courage I can see welling up from deep inside her, she actually takes a step closer to me and not away. Oh, yes. She is most definitely here for what I think she is here for.
There is a book that may not have been written by...
She begins, but lets the statement trail off, unfinished.
Yes?
I prompt, and almost step closer, but do not want to spook the little deer. Or deer with an A, I should say. She's a young woman, not Bambi after all. Although Bambi was a male and not a female. A distinction most forget due to how the name has been co-opted by the stronger sex so many decades ago.
A friend told me that there is a book here that can...
She trails off again and glances over her shoulder. Then she looks past my shoulder, causing me to turn my head to see what she's looking for.
Miss, I am here to help,
I say.
And there is no need to be embarrassed by any request you may have. If the book exists, and it is housed here in my, the library, then you have every right to seek it out. All I need is a little more information.
She thinks on this for a moment, then nods. Before I know it, she is pushing past me out of the medieval Europe section and straight for the library's entrance. I am barely out of the row by the time she's burst outside into the gloomy winter rain.
Excuse me?
A familiar voice snaps at me from my left side.
This is not large print.
I turn to the woman who is either 60 or 80 and not 90. She's holding up the latest John Grisham novel and waving it in my face.
No, ma'am, that is not large print,
I say, and snatch the book out of her hand before she makes me nauseous with all that waving. The look on her face is a mixture of offense, surprise, and fear. Good.
You did not request the large print version, but I do know we have it in stock,
I say.
Shall I show you to the large print section before I shelve this for you? I know where the large print section is, male librarian with a girl's name.
She shoves past me, and I am not as forgiving about it as I was with the young woman. My left foot slides out just a hair, barely noticeable to even the most studied observer. The older woman's 60 or 80-year-old foot catches on mine, and down she goes.
Oh, dear me,
I say, and reach down to help her up from the carpeting that was installed sometime in the second half of the previous century. She swats me away and uses the shelf next to her to claw her way back upright.
You tripped me,
she gasps as she leans against the end of the shelf, her face flushed, her hair a mess, my soul delighted.
Ma'am, I did no such thing,
I say with enough indignation that I can sense a few other patrons looking at us.
I was turning to help show you to the large print section when you pushed past me.
She glares at me for a few seconds, then straightens herself, pushes away from the shelf, pats her hair down, smooths out her clothes, then moves in close to me, her finger jabbed up under my nose. It's quite a show she puts on, and I don't even bother to take a step back as she winds up for her verbal assault.
You are not a nice person,
she says, then turns on her heel and shuffles over to the large print section in as angry a way as her 60 or 80-year-old body can. Her blouse is untucked from her pants, and I smile at this bit of chaotic undressery. That's a word, yes? Undressery? If not, it should be. Or perhaps it used to be, and I am only remembering it now. Hard to say considering the volumes of words I have consumed over my time as a librarian. Knowing what task I have before me, I hurry back behind the counter to await the older woman's arrival with her hard-fought large print edition of John Grisham's Camino Ghosts.
I should really read this,
I say when the book is slapped on the counter in front of me.
Your card, ma'am?
The woman snorts and huffs and sniffs as she pulls her pocketbook from her purse and slides out her library card. I scan it, hand the card back, scan the book, and that over, then steeple my fingers in front of me as I lean my elbows on the counter.
I hope you enjoy your read and have a most pleasant day. The book is due back in 14 days, thank you. Looking forward to your return.
She does not stop her snorting or huffing or sniffing as she gives me one last glare, then turns about and shuffles her way out of the library. I, of course, do not mention her blouse being untucked. I'm a librarian, not a personal stylist. Perhaps she wants to look like a person who is one pudding cup away from the nursing home. Who am I to say? The light outside dwindles and dies. An hour later, I walk the shelves and the tables, whispering politely to all who remain that the library is closing. Once the last patron has walked out the door, with a copy of Herman Melville's collection of short stories that were published in Harper's Magazine, no less, I lock the doors, turn out the front lights, then make my way through the dim library to a shelf that no one ever sees until they are supposed to. 3 books sit on the shelf, none with names on the spines. Spines that are worn and cracked and can use some new life to them, some new energy. My thoughts go to the young woman from earlier, and I smile at what she said. A friend told her about a book. Oh, I'm sure a friend did. A desperate friend. A friend who would save their own skin rather than pay the price they agreed upon. A friend who should not be anyone's emergency contact, if you understand what I am saying. I run my fingertips along the 3 spines and I take a deep breath, memories bubbling up from deep, deep inside. But no, I do not have time for those memories. They are deep for a reason. Reluctantly, I walk away from the shelf and continue my closing procedures. All windows are checked and locked. All chairs pushed under and lined up with their respective tables. Computers are shut down for the evening. The rear emergency door is latched and secure. With my duties done, I return to the counter, fetch my courier's bag, which is much too large for the contents inside, yet comes in quite handy when I decide to bring a stack of books home with me. Tonight, though, I am not in the reading mood. I am in the thinking mood, and that young woman is the center of my thoughts. I leave and lock the library behind me, ready to start all over again in the morning. And when the morning arrives, and I arrive shortly after with a cup of coffee in my hand, I am not at all surprised to see the young woman waiting for me under the eaves of the front entrance. "I didn't know when you opened," she says, as if that is an explanation for her eagerness, which it is not. "We have our hours posted on our website," I say. and maneuver around her to unlock the front door. "Excuse me." The young woman almost jumps out of her skin to get out of my way. Before I slide the key into the lock, I pause and look at the young woman. "Are you all right, dear?" I ask and look back over my shoulder. "You aren't in any trouble, are you?" She shakes her head no and tries to smile at me, but fails miserably. I just need the book." "Well, who am I to obstruct the enthusiasm of a reader?" I say, and finish my movement by sliding the key into the lock and turning it 2 full rotations to the right. The bolt inside slides free and I push the door open with my elbow while I hold up a hand to her. "Let me take care of the alarm and turn some lights on, and you can come right in." "Oh, okay," she says, pausing the step forward she was about to take. I enter the library, sighing at the familiar smell and feel of all the books that surround me. With a flick of my elbow, I switch on the front area lights. Then I make my way to the counter, set my coffee down, place my bag on its shelf directly under the computer, and pretend to busy myself as I boot up the computer. There really isn't much to do. I'm simply killing some time as I surreptitiously watch the young woman fidget and squirm outside the front door. After booting up all of the computers and turning on the backlights, I slowly walk my way to the front, smiling the entire time. Her squirming and fidgeting increases considerably. Poor dear. Come in, I say, and hold the door open for the young woman. She hurries in and looks about the place as if she's never seen a library before, which we all know isn't true, since she had just visited yesterday. I would consider her behavior strange if it wasn't for the nature of the tome she seeks.
"I have been thinking,"
I say, and place a finger to my chin to emphasize how sincerely I have put thought into her matter.
"Would this book you need be one that perhaps might be on the subject of something that could be considered unorthodox?"
She nods yes, then shakes her head no.
"It's not erotica,"
she says quickly.
No, we have established that already,"
I say, and continue to tap my chin.
"But it could be considered taboo, couldn't it?" Maybe, I guess,"
she replies, and the uncertainty in her voice tells me she has no idea what she has gotten herself into. Some friend she has indeed.
"If I were to say a word, will you promise not to laugh or be cruel in your response?"
She frowns.
"It's just that if I am wrong in my suspicion, I would hate to be mocked for my mistake when I am only trying to help." "No, I won't laugh." "Very well then,"
I say and take a deep breath. Then I let it out slowly, and at the very end of the exhale I say,
"Magic."
She doesn't smile. She doesn't laugh. In fact, she barely reacts at all. Yet the increased speed of the throbbing pulse at the side of her neck tells me I have hit the mark exactly as I thought I would.
"Come,"
I say, and wave for her to follow me toward the back of the stacks.
"Technically, the library doesn't open for another hour, so we shouldn't be disturbed." "I'm sorry,"
she says quietly as she slowly follows me.
"No need, my dear,"
I say.
"I am here, you are here, the books are here. I see no reason for you to apologize for arriving a tad early."
I lead her to the shelf of 3 books and stand there, waiting for her to make the first move. It is key that the reader make the first move.
3?
She asks finally, after studying the shelf of books and my face in rapid succession.
"Not 1, 3,
I say.
"And you believe they are magic?"
She asks, and I see the flush of embarrassment start to rise from her neck.
"My friend says they aren't written by people." "Is that what your friend says?"
I ask, knowing full well her friend would say anything to extract themselves from the situation they have gotten into. The young woman tries to smile but can't quite achieve the goal. She nods at the books and looks me in the eye.
"I have an audition this week,"
she says, beginning her explanation of why she is in need of the books, let's say, abilities. There is always an explanation. There is rarely an actual need for the books.
"An audition?"
I ask, wide-eyed and impressed, despite not being impressed at all. Fame is so common, so base, that to acknowledge it with anything other than mock enthusiasm would only make my day worse. There is nothing like being yelled at by a diva in the making.
Piano,
The young woman replies.
Juilliard. Juilliard,
I say with deep reverence in my voice. I do not add that I have heard this type of story before. That would be rude.
I have practiced my entire life for this audition, but...
The woman says, her eyes going back to the books and their well-worn spines. She reaches out but hesitates before touching the covers. That is good, because her fingers would not find leather. Perhaps she'd think it to be pigskin. Perhaps on some level she'd be disgusted by the touch. Perhaps she'd have a chance to change her mind and walk out of this library right now, to go back to her apartment or room or wherever she lives and continue practicing over and over, instead of looking for a shortcut, for a sure thing. But that isn't what is about to happen.
What did your friend say about these books? Did she mention how they work? She said...
She clears her throat.
She said that all I needed to do was tell my desires and the correct book would show itself. Your desires? Is that the wording she used? Yeah. She didn't say to tell the books your needs? No. She said desires.
The young woman replies, as if I'm confirming something for her. What she doesn't realize is that I have only revealed to her the sadness and hopelessness of her endeavor. Her friend is using her for her own gains, or, more correctly, is using her to get herself out of quite the pickle she's found herself in.
And how does your friend know about these books? What do you mean?
The young woman asks, her ignorance a painful thing for me to behold.
Well, let us say that these books are magic.
I continue with a sincere smile.
And let's say these books can help with your desires. We can each agree to these truths, yes? Yes?
The young woman replies, obviously confused.
You do not sound certain. On what? Us, you and I, agreeing on the basic foundation that these books are magic and that they can grant a person's desires. You do not sound certain on either of those facts. Well, it's a lot,
the young woman admits.
It is a lot,
I say.
And yet, you are here, and I have not thrown you out. I throw out insane people all the time. Our streets are filled with the smelly annoyances. But I have not asked you to leave. In fact, I have escorted you to this shelf myself. Okay,
I sigh.
While I am not confirming your belief that these books are magic and have the ability to grant desires, I am also not saying you are wrong,
I say.
So, in order to move forward, we have to be in agreement that these books are indeed magic and these books can indeed make your desires real. Yeah, sure. I agree to those facts,
the young woman says, and I can see I have spooked her. Good. She should be spooked.
Excellent,
I say.
How much time do you have today? I'm sorry? Time. Today,
I say.
How much of it do you have? These books cannot be checked out. They must be read here in the library. I didn't know that,
she says, looking alarmed.
I have to be at work at 4. And what do you do for employment? I'm a waitress. A noble profession,
I say and pat my chest.
Almost as noble as being a librarian.
She doesn't laugh at my joke. One day someone will get me.
You should get started,
I say, and look toward the front of the library.
I'll show you to a reading room, but then I must continue my opening duties before the regulars arrive. Okay,
she says, and reaches for one of the books. To say I have to restrain myself from slapping that hand away is an understatement. Instead, I reach out faster and pluck the first book in the row from the shelf.
This is where you start,
I say and hold the book out to her. There are no words on the cover, no intricate scroll work, no pressings of leaves or shelves into the skin with which it is bound and covered. There is only the book itself. The young woman reaches for the book, but this time I do not stop her. No, she stops on her own. her fingers only centimeters from the edge. I hold my breath, ready, hoping, believing she will change her mind and run from this building, all thoughts of gaming the system gone from her head. Then she takes the book from my hands and studies it. As her finger slides under the front cover, I place my palm on top.
These books are not to be opened here,
I say, and wave an arm to our left.
This way, please.
She nods and clutches the book to her chest as I show her to a row of reading rooms set into the back wall of the library. 3 are neat and tidy and clean. The 4th is not. It has a sign on the doorknob that says, "Not for public use." This is the door I open. I do not blame the young woman for pausing at the threshold as I walk in and move some of the various boxes and stacks of damaged books from the table and chair. I stack the debris in the corner of the room, then return to the table and give it a thorough wiping with my shirt sleeve.
Here you go,
I say and pat the table.
Why can't I use one of the other rooms?
She asks, looking about at the junk that is accumulated in the reading room.
Because this is the room where you may read those books,
I say, answering her question not in the least, yet answering it all the same. She nods and walks slowly to the chair I have pulled out for her. She does not sit down, though. I can tell she is waiting for me to leave. So much for any implied trust that I had assumed we'd built due to my being friendly and accommodating. Were my jokes not disarming?
I'll leave you to it,
I say, and scoot around her to the door. When I get there, I pause and ask,
May I make a suggestion? Sure,
she says and sits down now that I'm outside her personal space.
If anything you read makes you upset, then stop reading,
I advise.
Leave the book in here, walk out of this library, and do not ever mention what you have read or what you think you feel. Feel? Just a little advice,
I say, then close the door and sigh as the click echoes across the library.
Morgan, you in here?
A voice calls from the front.
Back here,
I reply, knowing it's our faithful postal worker, Arlo, ready to gather and deliver the day's mail before heading off into the wilds of our fair little town. I do not bother to look behind me and glance through the reading room's window to see if the young woman has cracked open the book. I know she has. She has made it this far, and that takes courage. The rest, unfortunately, well, takes everything else. After completing my opening duties and chatting amiably with Arlo for a few minutes, I make my way to the reading rooms for a glance at our little fool. And there she is, head bent over the book, her hands gripping the edge of the table like it is keeping her from being flung up to the ceiling. I watch her for several minutes, and each time she has to turn a page, it's like she's fighting gravity itself. And this book she has is the primer. She hasn't even begun to understand what she's gotten herself into.
Anyone here?
A raised voice from the counter gets my attention, and I drift away from the reading rooms and back to the front, where I find a certain older woman in her 60s or 80s for whom I have such honest affection.
Hello again, ma'am. How may I help you?
I ask, then nod at the Grisham novel in her hands.
Finished already, are we? No, I have not finished already,
the older woman snaps.
You said this was large print. This is not large print.
She slams the book onto the counter, and a few heads swivel in our direction. I give the disturbed patrons a comforting smile, then return my attention to the older woman in her 60s or 80s. I suppose I should stop calling her that. Her name, according to her account in the library system, is Constance Klein, and she is 73 years old. She also lives at 3641 Nightingale Lane, which is all the way across town in an area of old historic homes whose owners have made our local town council's life absolutely miserable. I can't for the life of me see why or how that is possible, considering what a delight Miss Klein has been. I take the book from the counter and scan it. Then I frown at the screen, turn to Miss Klein, and give her a beaming smile, then look back at the screen and frown.
I am sorry, Miss Klein, but this is large print,
I say, then turn the book around and open it to the copyright page. Almost at the bottom, where the print run information is, are the words, Large print format. Miss Klein studies the page, then sneers up at me.
I need larger. You may at that,
I reply.
Unfortunately, I am a librarian and not an ophthalmologist. So short of an actual medical opinion, all I can do is direct you to this lovely spinner rack of reading glasses we have for sale. They come in all sorts of sizes and colors and designs and strengths, and my eyes are perfectly fine, thank you,
she snaps.
But alas, so is the print,
I say, and hope for a laugh at my wordplay. There is no laugh.
I need a better book,
she says.
Might I suggest The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt? Excuse me? The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt,
I repeat, fearing the woman's hearing is as bad as her eyesight.
I heard what you said, Morgan,
she says, almost spitting my own name at me.
I just find the suggestion rude. I do not need your sarcasm. I need this book in large print. But that is large print,
I say.
The largest print available on the market.
I could suggest she purchase an ebook reader, where one has the ability to enlarge the font to whatever size one desires. But that would solve her problem, so I remain silent. My mind drifts away from Miss Klein's invented problem, and I think of the young woman in the reading room and her desire to ace her piano audition. No sooner has this thought entered my head when I hear a door slam open and a barely muffled scream issue from the back wall. A second later, the young woman is sprinting out from between the stacks and headed straight for the front door, tears streaming down her face and a strand of snot flying back across her cheek, the end of it lost in her dark hair. When the door has closed behind the fleeing woman, all eyes turn to me.
She wanted larger print,
I say to the curious and confused faces. Then my eyes fall on Miss Klein and I shake my head.
Will there be anything else I can help you with today, ma'am? You haven't helped me with this,
she snarls, somehow able to keep her voice at a library-appropriate level and still make me feel as if I should take a step back. Bravo to her, I say. Still some good fight left in this aging body that is slowly dying before me.
I might be able to order a copy with larger print,
I say, and return my attention to the computer and its vast catalog of books that will not solve her imaginary problem.
Let me see.
Miss Klein begins her fingernail tapping routine, and I almost start to shake my hips to the rhythm. However, I do not want to prolong my exposure to the lovely woman any longer than necessary, so I shake my head instead. Just as I see Miss Klein about to open her mouth out of the corner of my eye, I gasp.
Wow, will you look at this?
I say and point at the screen that she obviously cannot look at.
There is a version with larger print. It's even called larger print. Who would have known? Any professional librarian worth half their salt,
Miss Klein says, then mutters.
One who does not have a woman's name. Good luck with that,
I say and smile at her as I print out a fake receipt I just made.
This is your hold receipt. Hang on to this and bring it when we call you to let you know that we have received the book.
She takes the receipt and studies it.
It says here that it could take up to 8 weeks before the book is available,
she says and shakes the receipt at me.
I want this book today, Morgan. Today. Oh, dear me. That just isn't possible. There are several people in front of you on the hold list.
Then I pat the book she's already checked out.
But you may keep this one in the meantime. Get yourself a jump start with the large print before the larger print version is returned. You have not been helpful at all,
she says, and snatches the book from the counter. She waves it at me, her thin old wrists barely able to handle the anger she wields.
I will complain to your superiors. I'm sure they will welcome your input,
I say and raise my eyebrows.
Is there anything else, Miss Klein?
She doesn't bother to answer me and just turns around and storms out of the library. More eyes are on me.
Sometimes we can't always get what we want,
I say quietly. The eyes look away. Speaking of getting what we want, I make my way back to the cluttered reading room. I see the table, but it is empty. No worries. I have a feeling I'll find the book. Ah, here it is, flung into the corner as I thought. I pick the book up and inspect it, careful not to crack it open myself, lest I want to be a crying, snotty mess, such as the young woman who ran from the library like the devil himself was on her heels. She should be so lucky. I leave the reading room, close the door tight behind me and replace the book on the shelf. It is not hard to notice that the spine of the book I just set back on the shelf is considerably shinier than the other spines. There is a toll to be paid when reading a book such as this. The day waxes and wanes, and soon I am the only one left in the library as a beauty of a thunderstorm rages outside. I even think of closing up early when the door opens as I expect it to, and in walks the young woman, soaked to the bone. At least, no one can tell if she's still crying or not.
I'm Beth,
she says as she walks up to the counter.
Hello, Beth,
I say.
Are you ready for the second book? No.
I cock my head and give her a sad smile.
But you read the first book, yes?
She nods.
And you understood what it was saying, yes?
She nods again.
But you refuse to continue knowing what the books will take from you? I'm not refusing,
she says quietly.
I'm just not ready. Ah, I see,
I say, and my sad smile turns to one of understanding.
Despite your reticence, you have returned for the second book.
She nods.
Then let us get you to your task,
I say, and lead her to the shelf once more.
We close in an hour. Can you read this in that time?
I have my hand on the second book, but do not pull it off the shelf. She must commit first.
I think so,
she says, which is good enough for me.
Good,
I say and take the book with me as I once again escort her to the cluttered reading room where I set the book on the table and leave without saying a word. Less than an hour later, I hear muffled crying from the reading room, but I do not go to investigate. I know why she sheds those tears. Hard truths being told, hard lessons being learned, a hard price to be paid, a hard choice to be made.
Can I read the third book now?
Beth asks, startling me as I have my back to the counter while I sort the books on hold.
The third book?
I respond, and glance at the large clock across from the counter that hangs on the wall just above the front door.
The library closes in mere minutes, Beth.
She flinches at the use of her name, but other than that, she doesn't respond. I see the fear and terror in her eyes, which is good, because it means she knows that what she has to do is wrong, yet she also knows that she has passed the point of no return. Truthfully, she passed that point the second her friend did her the unkindness of mentioning the books.
Tell you what,
I say, and slip out from behind the counter. I approach her and grasp her shoulders in my hands.
Do you prefer pepperoni or Hawaiian? What? Pizza,
I say.
Which do you prefer? I'm a Hawaiian man myself, but I understand that your generation has some issues with pineapple on pizza. So I am happy to go with regular pepperoni. I don't understand. Apparently not,
I say, and lead her gently to the reading room where I fetch the closed book from the table.
Wait here.
She does, and I walk the book back to its place on the shelf. Its spine is now as shiny as the first book, both looking almost as if I just unwrapped them. I shudder at the thought of what books such as these could possibly ever be wrapped in. When I return to the reading room, Beth is seated at the table with her head resting on her arms.
Are you sure you don't want to go home?
No, she says and lifts her head.
There are 3 books, right?
I nod.
My audition is on Friday, and today is Tuesday. I need to read all of these as fast as possible, so I have at least a day or two to...
She doesn't finish the sentence, and I don't need her to. I understand what task she has laid out before her. I do not envy her.
Very well,
I say, and give her the third book.
I'll go ahead and order 1 of each pizza, and some soda pop with plenty of caffeine. We'll stay until you have read this book, but then you will have to go home, simply because I refuse to sleep in this library. Work-life balance and all that. Okay, thank you,
she says, then adds as I turn to leave.
Have you read the books?
I smile and say,
I better order the pizza before the dinner rush delays delivery too much.
Then I close the door and walk away, leaving her question intentionally unanswered. By the time the pizza arrives, the library is fully closed, and I have to let the young man in so he can set the pies on the counter. He stands and waits. I included a tip in the application I used to order the food, but apparently that is not enough.
Never swim in leather pants,
I say and grin.
What, dude?
The delivery driver asks.
That's your tip,
I say.
Never swim in leather pants.
He scrunches up his face, and I fear I have caused the young man to have an exceedingly early stroke for someone his age. I go to my bag and luckily have a few dollar bills in there, as antiquated as cash is these days.
Be careful out there,
I call out as he leaves. He does not acknowledge my advice, despite the thunderstorm still raging over our little town. I lock the door and turn back to the counter, when even over a peal of thunder, I hear a loud sob come from the back of the library. She has finished the third book. Such a fast reader, this one. I do not wait for her to make her way to me. She'll be lucky if she can stand. With pizzas in hand, I walk my way back to the reading room.
Beth?
I call out as I knock and open the door. She is slumped over the table, her eyes glazed, her mouth open, drool pooling under her chin and cheeks. I would be alarmed if this was the first time I've witnessed a complete reading.
Beth?
I say a little louder. Her eyes blink and she sits up suddenly. Then she grabs her head and moans.
How long was I out?
She asks.
A minute or so at the most,
I say and hold up the 2 pizza boxes.
Hungry?
She shakes her head no.
Well, I am,
I say, and set the pizzas on the table next to the closed third book. Without a word, I pick up the book and return it to its shelf with the other 2. All 3 spines are shiny and beautiful. Books need to be read. These books need it more than others. When I return to the reading room, I see that Beth has devoured half the pepperoni pizza, her cheeks stuffed with greasy cheese and meat and crust.
You have questions,
I say, and set the pepperoni box aside so I can grab a slice of Hawaiian.
Please, feel free to ask. I'm not going to get what I desire, am I?
She asks around a mouthful of pizza.
That depends on you,
I say, and nibble at my slice, not wanting to stuff myself, even though I'm starving. I need to be able to answer her questions without spitting mozzarella everywhere.
You mean it depends on if I can find some sucker to come in here and read the books too,
she says, and I hear the bitterness in her voice. Then I see a thought cross her mind.
No,
I say and shake my head.
Your friend Taylor cannot read books she's already read. Not only will it not satisfy the covenant you have unwittingly fallen into, it would kill her, kill you, and damn both your souls to become possessions of the Fae.
The Fae, she echoes.
Fairies? In a way,
I say and shrug.
They have traps like these all over the world for humans such as you. What does that mean, such as me?
She asks, and takes another bite of pizza, even though she hasn't even come close to finishing her last bite.
People who want to bend the will of fate and reality to suit their own purposes,
I say and nibble.
All I wanted was to shine in my audition,
she says, then frowns and stares at me.
Wait, how did you know Taylor's name? Can't you guess?
She thinks, then she nods.
Because she had to come in here and read the books too.
I nod and she narrows her eyes.
What was her desire? She didn't tell you? No. Then that's between her and the books,
I say with a shrug.
Oh,
she says, and I can see the anger rekindling inside of her.
I am not a monster. I know, but I have to be one in order to keep my soul. Perhaps. What does that mean? It means just because you're a friend, and I use the word loosely for obvious reasons. Just because Taylor decided to take advantage of someone who I believe is a decent, good person, doesn't mean you have to. But if I don't find someone, then the Fae will take my soul. The rest of your soul. Oh, right. Each book took a piece already? That is the price. I can't do this to someone. I can't keep the reading cycle open. Oh, you will keep the reading cycle open. I suggest, however, that perhaps the person you target doesn't have to be exactly, well, a nice person at all. Does that count? It doesn't have to be a friend? In all that horror and grotesquerie you were forced to consume, did you read anywhere that the next reader must be your friend? No. Then there's your answer. But who would I trick?
I hold up a finger.
I have an idea. Give me your cell phone and I'll text you exactly what to say.
She hesitates.
I have supervised the near damnation of your entire life essence, so I wouldn't worry about giving me your number.
She gives me a weak smile, then gives me her number. We sit in silence and eat for a few minutes before she yawns.
You need sleep. Here, take the leftovers with you,
I say, nodding at the pizza.
It's the least I can do. Are you sure?
She asks, surprised.
Eat up, get some rest, then be ready to make a phone call in the morning,
I say and stand up. By the time I see her out the front door, I fear she'll fall asleep on the drive home. But she assures me she is fine.
I'll text you tonight,
I say as she walks toward the parking lot.
Don't worry, it'll all go fine.
She gives me a small nod, then gets in her car and drives off. I watch her leave the lot, then go back and gather my things. I have the text composed in my head by the time I get home. I send it just after brushing my teeth. When I arrive the next morning, I am not surprised to see Miss Klein waiting for me.
I received a call this morning from someone with a brain for a change,
she snaps.
She said that the larger print version of Camino Ghosts was delivered yesterday. Yet I didn't get a call from you, Morgan.
The way she snarls my name at me erases any sort of guilt I may have had after sending Beth the text telling her what to say when she called the older woman who was in her 70s.
Oh, well, I apologize profusely,
I say and unlock the door.
Why don't you come in and I'll show it to you? I must warn you, it's a special edition, and I had it delivered directly from the publisher, so it's not even available to the public yet. Is that so?
Mrs. Klein replies, shoving past me into the library.
That is so,
I say and gesture toward the back of the library.
How about I show you?
Thanks for listening. If you enjoy these stories, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and check out some more of my episodes here.